I tied one last pink ribbon to the fence post and stepped back, letting the afternoon sun spill across the yard. The decorations shimmered faintly, streamers twisting in the light breeze, balloons bumping softly against each other. It looked like something out of a children's storybook, and I allowed myself a small, tired smile. Today was for Emma. 9 years old, endlessly hopeful, and obsessed with everything pink and sparkly. I had spent the last 3 days baking, cleaning, and rechecking my party list until my eyes blurred. My sisters had promised to come early to help set up, Mom too, but as always, the promises had evaporated like smoke. I checked the time again, 11:40. The party started at noon. The cake sat proudly on the picnic table, a castle of frosting and sugar pearls that I couldn't really afford but bought anyway. There were 9 tiny place settings, each with a crown-shaped napkin folded by hand. Emma's happiness was worth the exhaustion. The sliding door creaked open behind me, and my daughter's voice rang out. "Mom, is it time yet?" She twirled across the patio in her new birthday dress, lavender fabric sparkling in the sun. For a second, I forgot the tension building in my chest. She was glowing, pure, unfiltered joy. "Almost," I said, forcing cheer into my voice. "Just waiting for Grandma and the others to show up." Emma's eyes scanned the street beyond the gate. "They said they'd come early to help, remember?" Her words pierced a quiet part of me I tried not to touch. "I'm sure they're just running late," I said. "You know how traffic gets on weekends." She nodded, but the brightness dimmed just a little. "Okay. I'll go watch from the window so I can tell you when they get here." She dashed back inside, leaving a swirl of laughter in her wake. When the door closed, the laughter dissolved, and the silence settled over me again. I wiped my palms on my jeans and stared at my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. The doorbell finally rang, and my heart leapt, until I opened the door. Only Aunt Diane stood there, holding a wrapped gift and a soft, apologetic smile. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she called as Emma raced toward her. My daughter hugged her tight, then peeked around her shoulder. "Is Grandma with you?" Diane's eyes flicked to mine, the truth already written there. "Not today, pumpkin," she said gently. "But look what I brought you." Emma's polite smile nearly undid me. "Thank you, Aunt Diane," she said quietly, clutching the gift like it might disappear. She took it to the backyard, while Diane stepped inside and exhaled. "They're not coming, are they?" she asked softly. I shook my head. I should have known better. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. *, don't make a big deal out of it. We'll see her at Christmas. *. Diane's lips pressed into a thin line. Unbelievable. The next hour blurred by. Neighbors arrived with chairs and snacks, classmates came clutching gift bags, and laughter slowly filled the space I'd been holding tight inside. Emma ran between the bounce house and the snack table, her curls flying, her smile radiant. Yet every few minutes, she'd glance at the gate, hopeful, searching. Each time, the gate stayed closed. When the last slice of cake was served, Emma climbed onto my lap and whispered, "Did Grandma forget my birthday?" My throat closed. "She's just busy, honey." Emma nodded, though the disappointment in her eyes said everything. As she ran off to play again, I turned away and blinked hard, pretending to fix the tablecloth. The truth was sharp and bitter. I had spent years excusing the same neglect I swore she'd never experience. After everyone left, the house fell quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I found Emma drawing on the driveway with chalk, bright hearts and smiling suns. Aunt Diane helped her outline a rainbow, her soft voice floating on the breeze. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. Need $400 for an emergency. Can you send it today? I stared at the message until the words blurred. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling with exhaustion and anger that had nowhere left to go. Something inside me shifted then, not loudly, but with the certainty of a door closing. No, not this time. A week passed after Emma's birthday, but the ache lingered. The photos from her party sat on my phone, dozens of smiling faces, a blur of pink and laughter, but when I scrolled through them, I couldn't shake the hollowness behind the images. I knew what was missing, even if Emma tried to pretend she didn't notice. Family. My family. Monday morning, I was packing Emma's lunch when my phone buzzed again. The family group chat, silent since the day of the party, had suddenly come alive. Asterisk exciting news. Asterisk mom had written. Asterisk we're planning Savannah's Sweet 26 party. Venues booked. Everyone's chipping in $1,900 each. Olivia, since you make the most, you'll cover grandma's share too. Details attached. Asterisk. I froze, the butter knife halfway through a slice of bread. Savannah's asterisk Sweet 26 asterisk. My sister was a grown woman. The only thing sweet about her these days was the mountain of unpaid loans I'd covered for her salon. My pulse pounded in my ears as I scrolled through the attached PDF, an event sponsorship sheet listing me as the platinum donor, complete with my company's logo and my full name. I hadn't even agreed to it. My stomach churned. Emma's braces were due next month. My budget was already razor-thin. Every spare cent was earmarked for her future, not another one of my family's self-inflicted emergencies. Another message came through, this time from Lacey. Asterisk just handle the deposit like usual, Liv. Mom said you'd take care of it. Asterisk. I gripped the counter until my knuckles ached. Like usual. Those two words felt like a curse. For years, I'd played the role of family financier, fixing broken credit cards, covering rent, bailing out my sisters whenever they stumbled. It was always presented as duty, love, guilt wrapped in gratitude. But something inside me was beginning to fracture. The front door creaked open, and Aunt Diane stepped in, balancing a casserole dish that smelled of butter and onions. Thought you could use dinner tonight, she said, setting it down. Her eyes found my face. What's wrong? Wordlessly, I handed her my phone. She read the messages, and her jaw tightened. They've got some nerve, she muttered. After skipping Emma's birthday. I nodded mutely. My phone buzzed again. Asterisk need $1,850 by Friday. Asterisk mom texted. Asterisk don't make a scene, Liv. It's family. Asterisk. That word again, family. Used like a key to open every locked door I tried to close. Diane reached over and touched my hand. You don't have to keep saying yes, she said quietly. They'll never stop if you do. I wanted to believe her, but old habits ran deep. Since Dad left when I was 20, Mom had always said, "You're the responsible one now." It became my life's mantra, the thread that held me to them. But that thread was starting to burn. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Bills, bank statements, budget spreadsheets, all lined up like a courtroom of silent witnesses. I scrolled through my old transfers, rent payments for Lacey, salon loans for Savannah, new furniture for Mom. The total made my stomach twist. More than $20,000 over the last 3 years. $20,000 I'd never see again. The glow from my phone lit the darkness. Another message. Asterisk send the money tonight. Please. The venue's waiting. Asterisk. I took a slow, deliberate breath and typed my reply. It wasn't what they expected. Asterisk $1.00. Congratulations. Asterisk. I pressed send and stared at the screen until the confirmation popped up. The moment it did, something inside me unclenched. A quiet, unfamiliar peace settled over me. It was the smallest act of rebellion imaginable, but it was mine. The next day, I called a locksmith. He arrived that afternoon, a kind man named Henry who whistled while he worked. When he handed me the new keys, he smiled and said, "Fresh start, huh?" I smiled back. You could say that. By evening, my phone was buzzing non-stop, calls from Mom, texts from both sisters, even a message from Grandma. I silenced it all. Emma and I sat at the kitchen table eating spaghetti, cartoons flickering in the background. She giggled, sauce smeared across her cheek. And for the first time in years, I laughed with her, not the polite kind, but something real. The peace didn't last long. At 8:45 that night, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw them, Mom, Savannah, and Lacey, standing on my porch, faces tight with anger. Mom's voice cut through the door. "Olivia, open up right now. Emma peeked around the corner, clutching her stuffed bear. "Is that Grandma?" she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart," I said softly. "But it's too late for visitors." The pounding started. Lacey's shrill voice followed. "You can't ignore us forever. After everything we've done for you." My heart raced, but I stayed calm. "Go to your room, honey," I said. "Put on your headphones." The flashing blue lights arrived 10 minutes later. My mother had called the police. When the officer stepped onto the porch, I recognized him. Officer Grant. He'd coached Emma's soccer team last spring. His eyes softened when he saw me. "Evening, Ms. Rhodes. Got a call about a family dispute." I explained everything, the money, the manipulation, the new locks. I showed him the messages. He nodded slowly, his jaw tightening. "You're doing the right thing," he said quietly. "Setting boundaries isn't a crime." When he stepped back outside, my family's confidence melted beneath the porch light. Their shouting turned to mutters, their posture deflated. One by one, they retreated to their cars. Mom was the last to leave, her eyes burning through the window before she drove off into the dark. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there for a long time. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. For the first time in my life, they couldn't get in. The next morning, the world felt quieter. Not peaceful, just hollow, as if the air itself was holding its breath. My phone sat on the counter, still flashing with missed calls. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I poured myself coffee, watched the steam curl upward, and tried to ignore the knot in my chest. Emma padded into the kitchen, her hair a tangled halo. "Mom," she said sleepily, "why was Grandma yelling last night?" My heart squeezed. I crouched beside her. "Sometimes grown-ups forget how to talk kindly when they're upset," I said carefully. "But that's not your fault, okay?" She nodded slowly, then climbed into her chair. "Can I have extra syrup today?" I smiled. "You bet." It amazed me, her ability to move forward, to seek joy even when the world around her cracked. As I made pancakes, I thought of how many times I had shielded her from this, cancelled visits, broken promises, the slow erosion of love that came with my family's expectations. Maybe it was time she saw that I wasn't invincible, that I was just learning too. By noon, the texts had stopped. Silence at last. But it wasn't freedom, not yet. It was the uneasy calm before something else. That something came in the form of social media. At lunch, as I scrolled through Facebook, I saw it, Savannah's post. Asterisk when people show their true colors, believe them. Some relatives only care about money, not family. I'm done being used. Asterisk dozens of comments followed. Cousins, old friends, even church members chiming in with sympathy. Asterisk so sorry you're dealing with this. Honey. Asterisk you deserve better. Asterisk. Not one person asked for my side of the story. I set my phone down, my hands trembling. The old me would have written a long defense, screenshots, receipts, timelines of every payment and loan. But what would that change? They'd already chosen their villain. So I typed only 5 words. Asterisk I wish you all well. Asterisk then I logged off and closed the app for good. That evening, Aunt Diane came by again, carrying a pie still warm from the oven. She studied me for a moment before asking, "You okay?" "I think so," I said. "Mostly." She smiled softly. "You're stronger than you think. You always have been. They just made you forget it." Later, after she left, I heard a soft knock at the door. When I opened it, it wasn't family. It was Mrs. Lang, my elderly neighbor from across the street, holding a casserole dish wrapped in a towel. "I heard about the commotion last night," she said gently. "You and your little girl okay?" "We're fine," I said, touched by the concern. "Really?" She nodded, setting the dish on the counter. "Well, you're not alone, dear. We look out for our own on this street." She gave me a small smile. Family isn't always blood. After she left, I lifted the towel. Chicken and rice, the kind my grandmother used to make. A note rested on top. Asterisk for better days ahead. Asterisk no signature. No lecture. Just kindness. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I sat with my laptop again. For the first time in years, I opened my budget file without dread. Without factoring in any family emergencies, the numbers looked different, hopeful. There was money left over. Enough for Emma's braces, enough to start a small savings account. Enough to breathe. I stared at the figures for a long time. My breathing slowed. My shoulders dropped. I had never realized how heavy their expectations had been until I set them down. The next morning, I drove Emma to school. As she hopped out of the car, she turned back and grinned. "Love you, Mom," she called. "Love you more," I said. And for once, I didn't feel like a liar. At work, I buried myself in spreadsheets until my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Olivia. It's Robert." The voice was deep, warm. "Your father's brother." I blinked. "Uncle Robert. I haven't heard from you since high school." "I know," he said. "Your mom called me, trying to rally support. Thought you should know, you're not the first person she's done this to." I froze. "What do you mean?" He sighed. "Why do you think your dad left? It wasn't another woman, Liv. It was exhaustion. Eleanor bled him dry, financially, emotionally, everything. When he couldn't take it anymore, she made him the villain. Just like she's doing to you now." The truth landed like a punch. I pressed a hand to my mouth, tears blurring my vision. "I always thought." "She wanted you to think that," he said softly. "But your father loved you. He just didn't know how to fight her and stay whole. You've done what he couldn't. You broke the pattern." After we hung up, I sat in silence, letting the weight of it sink in. I thought about the photo tucked away in a box somewhere. Dad holding me at a birthday party, looking tired but smiling. Maybe he hadn't abandoned us. Maybe he'd just chosen survival. That evening, Mrs. Lang dropped by again, this time with cookies. "A few of us ladies are keeping an eye out," she said conspiratorially. "In case your mother decides to pay another visit." I laughed, surprised. "You don't have to do that." "Sweetheart," she said, patting my arm. "Some of us have been where you are. Family can be love, or it can be quicksand. You've got people here who care." When she left, I found a small envelope tucked under the cookie tin. Inside was a $100 grocery card and a note. Asterisk for Emma's smile. Asterisk no name. No strings attached. I sat down at the kitchen table, the cookies untouched, and cried. Not from sadness this time, but from something lighter. Relief, maybe. Gratitude. The realization that love could exist without demand. The world outside my window felt gentler that night. The stars didn't seem so far away. 2 weeks passed before the next storm hit. By then, the silence from my family had settled into something almost comfortable. The constant buzzing of my phone had stopped. The house felt peaceful again, just Emma, me, and the quiet hum of our small routines. We started walking to school together each morning, our hands brushing as we crossed the street. I found joy in tiny moments, packing her lunch, listening to her chatter about class projects, laughing when she burned her first attempt at pancakes on Saturday morning. Life was ordinary, but it felt extraordinary because it was finally ours. Then came the letter. It arrived one Friday afternoon, tucked among bills and flyers. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting instantly, sharp and deliberate, like every word she'd ever spoken. Inside was a short note written on cream paper. Asterisk children need their grandparents. Think about what you're doing to Emma. Asterisk. No greeting. No signature. Just guilt, neat and practiced. The same tone she used my whole life, now reduced to ink and paper. I folded the note once and placed it in the drawer beside my budgeting spreadsheets. A reminder, not of family, but of why I needed distance. The following week, my phone rang again. It was Derek, my brother-in-law, Savannah's husband. I hadn't heard from him since Christmas. Liv, look, he started awkwardly. The girls are upset. Your mom's crying every day. Can't you just give them what they want? Peace is worth more than money. I stared at the wall, fighting the urge to laugh. Derek, I've been buying peace for years. It just keeps getting more expensive. He was silent for a moment. They said you've changed. I hope so. I hung up before he could answer. A few days later, a cream-colored envelope arrived, this time addressed to me and Emma both. The return address was from Mom. Inside was a formal invitation. Thanksgiving dinner, family reunion. Below, written in her familiar cursive, a note read, all is forgiven. Please contribute $750 for the venue. I stared at the number until my vision blurred. Forgiveness, with a price tag. Typical. Emma found me at the kitchen table, the invitation still in my hands. What's that? She asked, chewing on a piece of toast. Just mail from Grandma, I said, sliding it aside. She wants to have a big dinner. Her face lit up for a moment, then dimmed. Are we going? I hesitated, watching her small fingers trace the pattern on the tablecloth. No, sweetheart. Not this time. She nodded quietly, as if she already knew the answer. Okay. Can we have our own Thanksgiving? My throat tightened. Yes, we can. Just us. That night, after tucking her into bed, I sat down with an old family photo, Christmas, 7 years ago. We were all smiling, arms linked. But I remembered the fight that followed, the tension that lived behind those smiles. I'd been holding that version of family for too long. It was time to let go. The next morning, I drafted a letter. Not emotional, factual. A record of every loan, every broken promise, every manipulative demand. I listed the dates and amounts, with clear boundaries for future contact. I didn't write it for revenge, I wrote it for clarity. For proof, to myself more than to them, that I wasn't crazy. That what happened was real. The final line took me the longest to write. This isn't about money. It's about respect. I printed 4 copies, one for Mom, one for each sister, and one for Pastor Wells, the family's confidant, who often mediated our issues. I wanted him to see the truth beneath the gossip. I mailed them all certified, my hand steady as I sealed each envelope. 2 days later, a small envelope arrived addressed to Emma. She tore it open at the kitchen table, scattering glitter onto her cereal. Inside was a handmade card decorated with stickers and bright markers. Sorry I missed your birthday. Happy belated. Your friend Lily. 3 $1 bills fluttered to the table. A note added, for ice cream. Emma gasped. Can we get some tomorrow? Of course, I said. She carefully set the card on the fridge, her small fingers straightening it 3 times until it was perfect. This is the best card ever, she declared. I smiled. $3 from a child saving for a bike meant more than all my family's grand gestures combined. It was real, honest generosity. That night, the phone rang again. Grandma's number flashed across the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Maya, you need to fix this, she said immediately. Your mother and sisters are fighting constantly since your letter arrived. I exhaled. About what? Money, of course. Your mother says Savannah pushed too hard. Savannah blames Lacey. It's tearing us apart. For a moment, I almost slipped back into my old role, the mediator, the fixer. Then I looked at Emma through the doorway, building a tower of blocks on the rug, humming to herself. I'm not responsible for fixing adult problems, I said softly. Not anymore. There was silence on the other end. Then Grandma said, You've always been the sensible one. Yes, I said. That's why I'm making a different choice. When I hung up, I felt strangely calm. The fear that used to grip me whenever I disappointed them was gone. All that was left was clarity, and a quiet kind of peace. The next weekend, Emma and I painted the living room. Yellow, her choice. It's like sunshine inside, she said, beaming as she dabbed her brush along the baseboards. I laughed, reaching for the roller. You're right. Sunshine inside. Maybe that's what this was. The slow, deliberate act of letting light back in. By the time October ended, our home had changed in quiet but remarkable ways. The yellow walls gleamed in the afternoon light, and the bookshelf Aunt Diane helped me build sat proudly by the window. Emma's books, arranged by color, made a rainbow that brightened the room even on grey days. Our new rhythm was simple. Mornings began with pancakes or cereal, followed by the walk to school where Emma insisted on holding my hand until we reached the gate. Evenings were filled with laughter, homework, and music that played softly from an old speaker. The silence that used to feel suffocating now felt safe. Peaceful. One Saturday morning, as I folded laundry, Emma padded in wearing her favorite pajamas, the ones with tiny rainbows that were starting to fade from too many washes. "Are we going to Aunt Savannah's party today?" she asked suddenly. My hand stilled. "What party?" "The one on your calendar," she said innocently. "Taylor from school said her mom is going." Of course. Mom must have invited everyone she could find to make it look like a family celebration. I had forgotten to delete the reminder from my phone. "We're not going, honey," I said gently. "We have our own plans." Her eyes brightened. "Can we go to the park instead?" "Absolutely." Later that morning, the two of us stood on the cracked basketball court near the park, laughing as Emma attempted to make her first free throw. When the ball swished through the hoop, she squealed and threw her arms around me. "I did it." "Yes, you did," I said, grinning. "Ice cream to celebrate." We ended up at a small diner called Dairy Dream, sharing a sundae that dripped chocolate fudge down both our chins. A woman at the next table offered to take our picture, and I agreed. The photo captured us mid-laugh, messy, imperfect, real. I saved it to my phone and made it my home screen that night. It was a reminder of everything that truly mattered. The following week, Aunt Diane called me during lunch. "You dodged a bullet, Liv," she said. "That party was a disaster." I couldn't help but laugh. "What happened?" "Where do I start?" "Your mother insisted on sitting next to the stage, then complained about the smoke machine. Savannah argued with the DJ about every song. And when the bill came, everyone suddenly discovered they'd left their wallets at home." I snorted. "So who paid?" "Mom tried to put it on your name," Diane said. "But the hotel wouldn't allow it. Something about you contacting them earlier." I smiled faintly. "Yeah, I made sure of that." "Well, good for you." They kept glancing at the empty seat they'd saved for you. "Guess they thought your wallet might still show up, even if you didn't." The guilt that usually followed moments like that didn't come. Instead, I felt a calm satisfaction. Not vindictive, just certain. Consequences were finally catching up to them, and I wasn't responsible this time. Weeks passed. Work felt lighter. I even started joining co-workers for coffee instead of rushing home to put out family fires. One afternoon, James, the co-worker who'd swapped shifts for me during the birthday fiasco, showed up at my desk with a grin. "You still need that bookshelf you mentioned?" he asked. "I already have one," I said. "But I wouldn't say no to company while I paint the trim in the kitchen." "Deal," he said. "I'll bring pizza." That Saturday, he arrived with 2 large boxes and a paint roller. We worked side by side, music playing in the background. Emma buzzed around us, proudly showing him her latest school art project. He listened intently, complimented her drawings, and even offered to frame one for his office. It was the first time in years that someone had entered our home without tension or expectations. Just kindness. Later, when James left, Emma said, "He's funny. You smiled a lot." I laughed, ruffling her hair. "He is funny." November crept in with crisp mornings and golden leaves. The neighborhood started preparing for the holidays, stringing lights, baking pies, exchanging casseroles. Mrs. Lang dropped by with a box of knitting supplies for Emma. "You've got natural talent, dear," she said as Emma proudly showed her first uneven scarf. Watching them together, I realized that family didn't have to mean shared DNA. It could be a patchwork of kindnesses, stitched together by people who simply cared. That evening, Emma hung her scarf on the back of a chair and yawned. "Do you think Grandma misses us?" she asked sleepily. "I think she misses the version of us she could control," I said softly. "But we're building something new now." Emma nodded, her eyelids drooping. "Something better," she mumbled before drifting off. I looked around our little living room, the yellow walls, the bookshelf, the photos taped above the fireplace. Our life wasn't grand or perfect, but it was honest. Every corner held evidence of love freely given, not demanded. When I finally went to bed that night, I realized that the weight I used to carry in my chest was gone. Not because life had become easier, but because I'd stopped apologizing for protecting our peace. For the first time in years, I slept without fear of my phone ringing. December came quickly, bringing a kind of quiet magic I hadn't felt in years. The cold mornings smelled like cinnamon and frost. Emma and I decorated our small Christmas tree, 4 feet tall, slightly lopsided, but perfect to us. She strung popcorn garlands while I tied red ribbons on branches that bent under the weight of her enthusiasm. The presents beneath the tree weren't expensive. A new sketchbook, a second-hand telescope I'd found at a garage sale, and a soft blanket she'd picked herself at the thrift store. For the first time, I didn't feel pressure to make the holiday extravagant. It was enough to see her smile and know that the joy we had was real. Cards started arriving mid-December. Mrs. Lang brought over a batch of apple cider and knitted mittens for Emma. James delivered a casserole that could feed an army. Aunt Diane drove 3 hours just to spend the weekend, bringing homemade cookies and laughter that filled every room. "Your place feels lighter," Diane said one night as we sat by the fireplace. "You feel lighter." "I guess I am," I said, watching Emma build a fort out of couch cushions. "It's strange. Peace doesn't feel how I expected. It's not loud or triumphant. It's just steady." Diane smiled knowingly. "Steady's good. You've earned it." A few days later, I checked the mailbox and found a single envelope written in my mother's handwriting. My stomach tightened as I turned it over. Inside was a simple card with glittering snowflakes and 2 crisp $50 bills tucked inside. The note read, *Happy birthday, granddaughter. Love, Grandma. I stared at it for a long moment. No guilt. No demands. Just a gesture. Small, but perhaps sincere. I placed the money in Emma's savings jar instead of sending it back. Boundaries didn't mean total disconnection. They meant control. I could choose what to accept and what to release. Christmas morning was quiet but beautiful. We woke early, wrapped in blankets, and watched the sunrise paint the snow in gold. Emma opened her gifts one by one, gasping with delight over each small surprise. "This is the best Christmas ever," she whispered, hugging me tight. After breakfast, the doorbell rang. It was James, holding 2 mugs of coffee and a wrapped box. "Didn't want to intrude," he said sheepishly, "but I couldn't let my favorite girls spend Christmas without a little something extra." Emma squealed and tore open the box, a model rocket kit. "We can build it together," she shouted. James laughed. "That's the idea." Later, while Emma worked on the rocket, James and I sat at the table sipping coffee. "You've built something really special here," he said softly. "A home that feels like love." I smiled, surprised by how easily I believed him. "It's been a long road." "Worth every step," he replied. The following week, a new year began. January found me volunteering at Emma's school once a month, helping with reading programs. February brought a new rhythm: Saturday dinners with Diane, Sunday walks with Mrs. Lang, and long phone calls with Uncle Robert, who sent postcards from every place he visited. We were building something new, brick by careful brick. One afternoon, Emma came home clutching a poster board. "We had to write about our hero," she said, grinning. "Wanna see mine?" The board was covered in drawings, 2 stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. Above it, in careful handwriting, were the words, *my hero, my mom. She taught me that love doesn't hurt. I blinked fast, trying to keep my composure. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," I whispered. "I'm so proud of you." Her eyes sparkled. "It's true." That night, after she fell asleep, I stood by the window, watching the snow drift softly against the glass. I thought about the years I'd spent chasing approval, the endless cycle of guilt and giving. It had taken losing everything to realize what I still had, a daughter who believed in love because I'd finally learned to model it. March came with longer days and softer light. The house smelled of paint and spring air. Emma learned to knit scarves with Mrs. Lang, and James built a new planter box for the front porch. The world outside was still the same, but ours had shifted entirely. Sometimes I still got messages from my mother or sisters. Brief, polite, testing the boundaries. I didn't ignore them, but I didn't let them in, either. I replied with short, neutral words. I wish you well. Take care. Nothing more. It was enough. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. And peace, I'd learned, was worth protecting. By the time October rolled around again, the air carried that crisp scent of autumn leaves and new beginnings. Emma was turning 10, and this year felt different in every possible way. There were no anxious calls, no waiting for texts that never came, no rehearsed excuses for people who wouldn't show up. This time, everything we planned came from a place of joy, not obligation. We decided on a picnic at the park, a small group, just people who had actually shown up for us. Mrs. Lang offered to bring her famous banana bread. James promised his homemade lemonade, and Aunt Diane volunteered to handle the balloons. Emma insisted on baking her own cake, with frosting that looked like it had survived a glitter explosion. It was messy and perfect. The morning of the party, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as Emma carefully piped stars onto the cake. "Mom," she said suddenly, "do you think Grandma will send a card again this year?" "Maybe," I said. "And if she does, we'll be thankful. But if she doesn't, that's okay too." She nodded, her expression calm, mature in a way that made my heart ache. "Yeah, we've got everyone we need here." The words echoed in my mind for the rest of the day. By noon, the park buzzed with laughter. Kids ran across the grass, their shouts carried by the wind. Diane set up the picnic tables, decorating them with wildflowers from her garden. Mrs. Lang handed out slices of banana bread while James showed the kids how to launch tiny paper rockets. Emma's giggles mixed with the rustling of the trees, and for once, time didn't feel heavy, it felt alive. When it came time for cake, everyone gathered around as Emma blew out her candles. "Make a wish." Diane cheered. Emma closed her eyes, her face glowing in the light of 10 small flames. When she opened them again, she looked straight at me. "Already came true," she said softly. Later, when the guests had gone and the sun dipped low, we sat together on the picnic blanket watching the sky turn gold. James packed up the cooler while Mrs. Lang waved goodbye from her car. The park grew quiet, filled only with the hum of crickets and the soft rustle of leaves. I reached over and took Emma's hand. "You did good, kiddo. 10 years old. How's it feel?" She grinned. "Older. Happier." That night, after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and opened my journal, the one Aunt Diane had given me for Christmas. The pages were filled now, each entry a piece of the journey. Fear, anger, relief, laughter, growth. I turned to a fresh page and began to write. Real family isn't defined by blood. It's built from kindness, from presence, from the people who stay when they don't have to. I looked around the house, the yellow walls glowing in the lamplight, the bookshelf lined with Emma's drawings, the small photo collage above the fireplace. At the center hung a new picture, Emma and me at the park, flanked by Diane, James, Mrs. Lang, and Uncle Robert, who had driven in that weekend just to surprise us. Beneath it, a wooden plaque Emma had painted red, *our family. There were no ghosts left in this house, no echoes of manipulation or guilt, no invisible debts weighing us down. Just laughter, light, and a quiet certainty that we had made it through. The next morning, as I packed Emma's lunch, I found an envelope tucked into the mail slot. The handwriting was shaky, unfamiliar. Inside was a simple note. *I'm proud of you. Love. Mom. No money. No expectations. Just words. I didn't cry this time. I didn't analyze what it meant or wonder if it was sincere. I simply placed it in the drawer with my journal, under the page that marked our new beginning. Some chapters didn't need to be rewritten, they just needed to end. That evening, Emma sat on the porch steps beside me, her hair catching the last rays of sunset. "Do you think things will stay like this?" she asked. I smiled, pulling her close. "Things always change, sweetheart. But this, what we've built, it's real. And no matter what happens, that doesn't go away. She leaned her head against my shoulder. Good, she whispered. Because I like our kind of family. The world around us faded into twilight, the hum of the neighborhood, the chirp of cicadas, the smell of fresh-cut grass. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. There was no storm coming, no crisis looming. Just a stillness that felt like peace. I closed my eyes, breathed it in, and let the moment settle deep inside me. We were home.